Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Caregiver Dave segment. And Caregiver Dave, how are you, Dave Nasani? Our guest today, unbelievable. I finally connected you, someone like-minded like yourself that had to go through different things. A great story our guest has today. Go ahead and introduce her.
Finally. I'm at a disadvantage here, Neil. I don't have the information in front of me. Can you please do a caregiver a favor and introduce them?
Oh my goodness, so gracious. Well, that puts me on the spot, but I'm going to say I'm excited to have author Sharon Cruse on the show. Sharon has a tremendous story about her book, and she'll share it today with us. And so go ahead, Dave, and you can start asking the questions.
Well, actually, here's what I do on my show. I say, Sharon, welcome to the show. Would you please take 2 minutes and introduce yourself? Tell us, who is Sharon and why was she put on this earth?
That's your question, right?
Yep, that's my first question,
Cruse.
yes.
I'm Sharon Cruse. I'm Sharon Wegscheider-Cruse, as I've been known in other fields. I'm on the show today because I hope there is some way through our conversation that we can bring any kind of hope and help to the people who are at home doing this kind of caregiving, and to the caregivers who bring it and get really tired and sometimes don't know which way to turn. And let's hope we can raise some things that'll help them.
Well, tell me, obviously you're a caregiver. How did you become a caregiver? When and how?
Well, I became a caregiver many, many years ago, and that resulted in an entire career when I worked with children of alcoholics and children from painful family systems. That was my whole first career, and it was a big one, it was a wild one, and it was a meaningful one to me. And then I retired. I decided I'd written 20 books, I'd been on a lot of shows, and it came time that I wanted to spend time with my children, and I had grandchildren, and I had a great-grandchild, and I decided to spend time with them, not ever thinking about someday we were all going to get a little bit older. And in that journey, things happen. There are illnesses, there are accidents, there are things that happen for families that have to be faced. My husband became ill. And he recovered, but he's aging at the same time. He required a lot more help from me, and all of a sudden, my life changed again as I became a caregiver. And we moved, we changed our lifestyle, we're very involved with our families, and then lo and behold, in this whole new role as a caregiver, I had an accident. And I became the person who needed to be taken care of. And
the caregiver who needs a caregiver, huh?
I was a caregiver who needed a caregiver. And my life didn't stop. I still had children and grandchildren and a full life and radio shows to do. And I was getting really tired. And this accident stopped me in my tracks. And I found out what it's like to be the one who needs to have the care. It opened a whole new world for me, and I found out how much is not out there for that population. So I'm in full recovery. I was one of the lucky ones that was able to come back. Some people don't get to. They've got a mom, a dad, a husband, a wife, a child, and they're in it for a lifestyle. They're in it forever. And there's not enough direction for what they're going to do and how they're going to do it.
You know, yeah, so I wanted to jump in with Sharon in that story. Thinking about when you talk about you were a caregiver for so long in so many variety of ways. Once you couldn't take care of yourself, how did that make you feel?
Powerless, scared, angry, worried that my kids were going to have their lifestyles impacted. It did a lot to me. And first but I couldn't move. I literally was in a hospital and a rehab center. I couldn't move. And it was the beginning of an internal conversion that if I ever get well again, I'm going to do everything in the world I can to be there for those who don't have a voice. Because if anything in my life, I've always had a voice. I'm never short on words, and you cut me off whenever I talk too long. but I'm going to use my voice, and I'm going to bring whatever hope and help I can. Had to develop a team. I ran it from a hospital bed and an iPad in the beginning. Eventually, I had a team in my house, and one thing led to another. And I have a daughter who's a paid caregiver. I have a son who is the one that was thrust into it. We get to be caregivers for all reasons. Sometimes you seek it for a career, and you became a doctor, a nurse, an EM driver. And sometimes you fall into it because somebody in your family needs care. And so my book is the journey of a lot of the messages those people need to hear.
Well, as you probably know, 30% of caregivers actually die before their loved ones do, and many more become sicker than the ones they care for, eventually needing a caregiver of their own. So you yourself became a statistic. So what was it with your symptoms and your illness that caused you to need a caregiver?
What happened is I was exhausted, and it was a hot night in the summer, and I was standing in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I fell down a flight of stairs.
Oh my.
And I broke my back.
Oh my.
Several places. And there was question, do you ever walk again? I'm a walker. I'm a hiker. I'm a Coloradan. And so I'm an outdoors person. And so the journey back was one that I made. And some people have that choice and some don't get it.
Yeah, so you've had a miraculous healing, it sounds like.
You know, I think so. And so do many of the people around me. But it wasn't a miracle like a bolt in the sky. It was more like three therapists in the house.
How long did the process take?
The short process took a month of hospitalizations and surgeries. The longer process was 3 months learning how to walk again. And the trauma effects, who knows? I might still be working on the trauma effects, is how it's changed everybody's life. But I carry gratitude. I carry a whole lot of gratitude that I'm back.
Well, you look great. How old are you?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Neil, I'll let you answer this, but how old are you and your husband, and is he doing okay?
My husband is 89.
Wow.
And he's out to lunch today with a caregiver while I'm doing this show. He's an incredible man with a smile on his face and a heavy heart with lots of things happening for him that he would prefer aren't happening. But we both live with gratitude and we're in each other's lives. I am 80 years old and I'm healthy. I walk 3 to 5 miles every 2-3 days.
Wow, with a broken back, huh?
Oh, my back now is, I got a new one that's going to outlast some people's regular back. I had a miraculous surgery and I relearned everything. I relearned it all. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I didn't know what was going to happen then. And as I'm now in this caregiving field and love every minute of it, my son has changed careers. He used to be in another whole field, but he's so excited about the caregiving field. He's been in this ever since my accident. He just stopped on a dime.
Wow.
And changed careers.
That's great. We need more caregivers.
And we need lots of men. We need a lot of male caregivers. And he's in huge demand as a male caregiver. And another way that he's in huge demand is he knows how to technically use everything, like I'm able to talk with you today. He knows how to make that happen. Yeah, he has a company called Tech That Cares. And you know, he's taken my husband, Joe, a long way. We're pretty darn good with tech for people our age. And he's our teacher.
That's great. And that's always the fun thing, Sharon, is always getting to learn more. And if you want to get the message out to the world about caregiving, the only way is through digital marketing. And some people are techie in certain ways, and other people are techie in other ways. And I've been very blessed to build a team of people in my digital marketing and tech company that have expertise in areas I understand, yet I don't want to try to tackle. And if you always want to learn and develop things and be open to other ideas in anything in your life, you are going to grow, and it's going to help everyone.
You are so right about that. And thanks for just sharing that message, because Dave asked, how are we doing? We're doing better because every day is an exciting challenge of learning. I mean, who would have thought when my husband was playing golf and we thought we were retired and I was doing some volunteering that I thought I was in the world, who would have thought at 80 and 89, we are changing course again because we have strong feelings about the people who don't have choices. We want to be a voice. And we went out and looked at some of the work that you've done. You guys are doing really important work. Caregiving counts.
Yeah, you're very encouraging to me because I'm only 65 and my wife is 75, and she suffered a stroke, lost her speech, paralyzed on the right side. And she's amazing, makes us normal people look like whiners and complainers. And I wonder, how much longer can we go? I mean, but gosh, if I'm 80 like you and she'll be 90 like your husband, basically, there's hope for us.
Oh, there's hope. You know what I call the older they become, the better teachers. The more Joe needs my help, the better teacher he is in making me a better person. I didn't know I had some of this stuff inside of me that has come out. I'm a better person for being his caregiver.
Yeah, and so am I. It's I wouldn't want to repeat it for $1 million.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't want to give it up for $1 billion, because I like who it's made us become, and we're just different people. And now I've been traveling all across the country. I'd like to hear more about what you have done in your travels. You speaking, you were on television. I mean, tell me, because you were a caregiver first, to who? And then you became a caregiver to your husband?
Well, my whole first career was advocating for families that had someone in the family with any kind of an addiction, food addiction, alcohol addiction, work addiction, whatever. And I ended up specializing in the field of alcoholism. I was the founding chairman for an organization called the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. In the early career, I did things like the Oprah Show. I did things like, remember good Phil Donahue? He always had a message and did his show. Wow. And I tried to carry that message for children of alcoholics who were kind of trapped in a situation where they were powerlessness. I think powerlessness is difficult. I think it's
I would love to pick your brain, because now that you're on a new chapter of your life, maybe you need to do it all over again. Instead of talking about children of alcoholism, now you're talking about the plight of the caregiver. Because many of them die, and I can learn a lot from you.
That's the goal of this first book. I thought, will I ever write again? I've written 20 books. But then, it comes in your passion and your heart. And it was like starting all over again, because I do care. I really care about these families. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just write a journal. Maybe I'll just write down a few things, and it'll help me with social isolation. It'll help me with being home a lot more. It'll help me. And as I put it together and started talking with people, they said, oh, that helps me too. And then the links began. I believe if you got a pulse, you got a purpose. And
absolutely.
So I called my publisher. I have a couple of publishers. I called one of my publishers and I said, what do you think about this? Do you think we should do a book? He said, done. Let's do it.
So Sharon, you talked about you've written other books. Let's talk about the other books really quickly. And then we want to get to your latest book, because again, Dave, I think, is going to have part 2 on his radio program, because he could talk caregiving with you probably 3, 4, or 5 segments. And I think you guys are going to be great collaborators. And that's what I love about radio shows and podcasts, the ability to collaborate. But tell us about the books you've written before this book.
I will tell you that. Can I respond to what you said first? Because I'll probably forget it. I want to respond to that. we'd love to do more shows, and I'd happily do that, but I'd like my son to be part of it, because I think that male energy and that male ability to do tech.
Sure.
But Pat and I would love to schedule some things like that. Now, to answer the question that you asked specifically, my first book it was a hardcover book called Another Chance, Hope and Help for Alcoholic Families. It was a hardcover book. It ended up as a college textbook. It went everywhere. It did everything. We just retired it a year ago. It had a 30-year history. My second book, which is still out there, is one called Learning to Love Yourself. And I'm sort of known in the field for being a no-nonsense, simple person. I'm not a whole lot into technicalities in writing either. I write simple books for simple people that they pick up and say, this helped. And so the current one is this one. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's called Caregiving, Hope and Health for Caregiving Families. And I am astonished. I thought it would be, Neil said something a little earlier that's true. When I first published books, I had publishers, and they had publicists and so forth. And so I ended up on a lot of those shows like Oprah. But today, the medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan used to say. With social media and the immediacy of what can happen, it's terribly important. It's just so important. And the possibilities are endless. They're just endless.
Wow.
And
You were so sharp for 80 years old. I mean, when I think of 80, I see a lot of elderly people who are kind of out of it, nursing homes, and your greatest strength is your age, young lady, because you are inspiration, and you're so vivacious, and you're full of life, and you have your wits about you, and you've done so much, and you've been rejuvenated. It's like, oh, let's retire, and God had other plans, obviously. He says, no, you retire when you're dead.
Well, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And my husband at 89 is my inspiration. Does he have issues and problems? Yeah, he's got some serious ones. But we don't give up. We just don't give up. He might be 99. But that means 10 more years of more sophisticated caregiving. And then somebody like Patrick, our son, comes into our life and says, well, here's a path you can take. More technical.
Yeah.
Here's a path.
Exactly. So you lucked out in the fact you could have someone to build websites for you. I don't know what Patrick's expertise area is, because it's very interesting when you say technical and social media sometimes don't mix. And here's the reason why.
Ooh, good.
People are people who have this ability to build things, while social media people have the ability to see the overall picture and promotion and have a little technical side. My expertise, I can talk about anything involving digital marketing and tech. However, I know how to create a brand, develop followers, increase following, engagement, and content, which is a fit from my career in the media before, or in professional wrestling I was in, Sharon, and then as a teacher. So it's kind of like it all fits together in promotions. But I always run into people that build websites and do all the tech stuff, and they just don't understand that social compatibility of social media. People think it's only for 20-year-olds. Trust me, it's for everyone. However, you got to have the patience, because it doesn't work like everything else. You build a website, you invite people to it, it's gonna transfer to sales. When you talk about social media, it's so ever changing. It's a different animal altogether.
You are so right, and that is so encouraging to me, because pressing the right buttons and doing the right thing is not necessarily what I do and do well. But I have great vision, and so does Patrick. We both have, I like what you said, and we were hooked when we first went to your website. We could tell that you have great vision, and having a caregiver on your show, That's great. And knowing I'm 80 and you're still interesting, do you know how many doors that can open? People
You're a very interesting person. You're putting yourself, I say, Dave, definitely there's a collaboration going on. I feel it's synergistic, but let's really quickly, the book, best place, and then Dave, we've kind of talked more caregiving. The book, kind of in a nutshell, what is going to do to help caregivers? It's telling your story pretty much then, right?
Well, it is, but it's built with one whole chapter that's a whole toolbox, but what they can do in their life. What the book does is empower them. They're going to get tools. They're going to get a little piece of that vision that you have, Neil, about this is bigger than preparing supper. This is a bigger caregiving mission in the world. The book also has tools and tips how families can come together, because what I've really seen is families can fall apart over caregiving, or they can fall together. And some families split up with all different kinds of traumas and who does what and how does this happen. And the book offers some very specific ways. I had one man call and say, we're not having a holiday this year. We're going to sit down around your book and my family's going to talk. Maybe the first time in a very long time about what's really happening. The book tells how to build a team. With all the things that I have done in my life and with all the places I've been, you know what? I couldn't do this alone. I couldn't have done it without my team of people. I said, help. And people came out of the woodwork. And I'm not talking about just paid people that I hired. I'm talking about volunteers. I'm talking about neighbors. I'm talking about building a community. I'm talking metaphorically about taking caregiving as a model for how we all can live and be there with and for each other.
Fantastic.
So all that's in the book.
All right, Dave.
Where do you live?
I live in Boulder, Colorado, or just outside of Boulder, Colorado, in a smaller town there, which is now becoming absorbed by Boulder, Colorado. But I have lived in Minnesota. I have lived in Palm Springs. I've lived in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And you know what? They all have cultures. And something that ties them all together is the caregiving subject.
Fantastic. Best place we can find information on you, Sharon, and learn more about you. And Dave, your final question can't be asked today, so you have to come up with something else. But go ahead, Sharon. Best place we can find info and purchase your book. Where can we go?
Okay, we have a website called caregivinghopeandhealth.com. Caregivinghopeandhealth.com. And it will explain where the book, when people buy them individually, they go to a wonderful publishing company in Florida called Health Communications. And it's a wonderful publishing firm. And when they want to buy them in bulk, they go to Simon & Schuster.
Dave,
Wow.
Last question for Sharon.
So impressed. Burnout. I deal with it all the time with the caregivers that I deal with. You know, we have 35,000 or so on our Facebook page. And did you ever experience burnout? And what did you do to get out of it?
On and off during my life, I have felt burned out. Yes, I have, for different reasons at different times. And I have come to believe, for me, that burnout is when I don't feel good enough about myself to make the choices I have to make. Burnout to me is a call to action.
That's a great answer.
All right. Well, thanks again for calling, guys. Caregiver.
Yes, we're going to have you on our show.
That's already, you already see your email, right? I think I forwarded you. I'll just forward you straight to Sharon's email, connect you guys. Sharon, you and I and your son need to talk off air and about some possibilities and how we can connect the dots as well. But again, thanks for everyone coming on the Neil Haley Network's
Thank you.
Caregiver Dave segment. And it was a lot of fun. And thanks for calling, everybody.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Take care, guys. Okay, bye-bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show. We'll be back in just a moment.